Hello, welcome listeners. This is Michael Beach, and you are dialed into the What Are You Doing podcast. This is the show for thought leaders who are investing in the next generation of leadership for their organization. This is also the show for you if you are an emerging leader who wants to become a great leader. Our mission is to spread the message far and wide that the world needs leadership today more than ever. Let's work together to make it a reality. We're excited to be able to bring you another What Are You Doing podcast episode. At Michael Beach Coaching and Consulting, we're on the front lines every day, helping people and companies to prepare themselves and their emerging leaders to become strong and courageous leaders. It's a calling, and we love answering the call. And today, we're calling on you to join us. I'm especially excited to have the opportunity to introduce you to today's special guest, Kelly Liu, the Senior Director of Global Demand at Menlo Security. Let me tell you a little bit about Kelly. She's an accomplished demand marketing leader and has been working in the high-tech industry in California for 15 years. At Menlo Security, Kelly's responsible for generating marketing-sourced pipelines, global campaigns, America's geo-marketing, as well as marketing operations and analytics. Kelly received her MBA in Marketing and Strategy from Simon Business School at the University of Rochester. Kelly was born in China and also lived in Singapore prior to coming to the United States with her husband to pursue the American dream. Recently, Kelly was honored to become a member of the advisory board for Secuvant, a managed security services provider. She provides marketing leadership and coaching there to help the company to adopt best-in-class marketing practices and create a predictable pipeline generation engine. I could easily go on about Kelly and her accomplishments, but I want to get her on the show sometime today. So we'll just say her accomplishments are many, and her list of awards is long and growing longer all the time and quite impressive. Kelly, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Very glad to be here, Michael.
I know, Kelly, that we're going to talk about leadership together today, and you're going to share your insights with our listeners. Ready to begin?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Kelly, can you tell our listeners a bit about Menlo Security in case they're not experts when it comes to cybersecurity and cloud security, please?
Of course. So Menlo Security is a cybersecurity company headquartered in Mountain View, California. Our mission is to protect organizations from cyber attacks by eliminating the threats of malware from the web, documents, and emails. Menlo Security has an isolation-powered cloud security platform that scales to provide comprehensive protection across enterprises of any size without requiring endpoint software or impacting the end user experience. Our company is trusted by many major global businesses, including Fortune 500 companies and 8 of the 10 largest global financial services institutions. And we're financially backed by investors such as Vista Equity Partners, General Catalyst, American Express Ventures, and JP Morgan Chase.
Wow, impressive. I liked what I saw in your marketing materials about security without compromise. No wonder all of those huge banks are working with your company, Kelly. Our listeners know that I'm a music fan and that music is a big part of my life. I like to ask my guests about music so we can learn a little bit about the music in the background in your life. What do you like to listen to? Do you have a favorite artist or a favorite song, Kelly?
That's a great question, Mike. I appreciate many kinds of music and arts in general because the fact that I lived in several different countries in my life. If anything that makes me feel fundamentally emotionally attached to, I would say it has to be the Peking opera. Peking opera was developed in the Qing dynasty in the 19th century, and I grew up listening to it with my family. It is the must-go activity I got to do whenever I have a chance to go back home and visit family and friends.
Sounds magnificent. I'll have to expand my repertoire a little bit and see how I can get myself connected with the Peking opera. It sounds lovely. Kelly, you mentioned that you were born in China. and you lived there, and you lived for a while in Singapore before coming to the United States. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in getting to the point where you are today, where you're now a leader in the corporate world in Silicon Valley?
So I think the answer is that my story would resonate well with many other accomplished and hardworking first-generation Asian Americans who came to this country to pursue higher education and career opportunities. As someone who grew up in the hardship in the childhood and then became the first child who received an MBA overseas, until today becoming a leader in the corporate world, I have to say that nothing in life came easily for someone like myself. But at the same time, anything can be possible. I am thrilled to have the opportunity today to share my journey with those who have a strong desire to succeed in life despite any obstacles you might be facing, culturally, racially, or emotionally.
A message of perseverance, and especially perseverance in the face of adversity. Tends to pay off handsomely, doesn't it? I'm sure that our audience would love to hear a little bit about some of the great books that you've discovered along the way. What's the best business or leadership book that you've read?
To that question, Michael, I was doing some reflection yesterday. I think over the past years in corporate America, I was introduced to a good collection of business and leadership books through many mentors and coaches in life. There are a few of them I really favor and revisit them from time to time. So just to name a few here: Emotional Intelligence by Gene Greaves and Travis Bradbury, Mindset by Carol, and StrengthsFinder by Tom Rath.
Some wonderful books. I'm a huge fan of Emotional Intelligence by Drs. Bradbury and Greaves. And Carol Dweck's work on mindset is truly game-breaking stuff. So I'm not surprised at all that you found that worth your time and you go back to it again and again. Good for you. Did you have any leadership mentors along the way, Kelly, who made a big investment in you or took an interest in helping you to become a leader?
So I think mentoring and the coaching, it's just such a selfless profession, right? Built upon giving. Just like yourself and Linda, which I truly enjoy working with and learning from. I truly admire anyone who devotes themselves in being a coach and mentor for other people. And both you and Linda have made a big impact in my leadership development journey back at the Arctic Wolf days a few years ago. So throughout the years, I have had many short-term mentors and coaches along the way. They each lifted myself up tremendously during those particular phases in life because you run into different chapters and different challenging situations. So I constantly reflect on those conversations and experiences. It's like making a big puzzle to me. Once you're able to put all the pieces of those golden nuggets together, a masterpiece will come alive.
Well, the Linda that you mentioned is my peer, Linda Drake. Linda is one of the coaches in my organization. She lives out here in the Tucson, Arizona area year-round, and both Linda and I have had the opportunity in the past to work with Kelly. So thank you for your kind comments. I appreciate the fact that we made a difference for you. Kelly, at what moment in your life do you think you first became interested in leadership? Do you remember?
So as someone who lived in 3 different countries, leadership has so many layers of connotations for me. Looking back to the very first 20 plus years I lived in Asia, which I consider as the first chapter in my life, leadership is quite different from how we think about it over here. It was embedded in the constant risk-taking, or say constant entrepreneurial experiments. So deep down, I do think about this quite a lot, by the way. Deep down, I think it was really driven by a very simple desire to create a better life. One example is that a few months into my very first job after college, our GM gave me a choice to either stay in the growing and more established division I was in at the moment, or create and lead a new division. So I chose the second option, hired 1 assistant and delivered profitability in the first year. A few years later, I left China and came to the US, eventually finished MBA, started my career in marketing. Starting at that very moment, I have to say that my entire notion of leadership went into a kind of turmoil. Not to exaggerate, performing high quality work can easily turn you into a high achiever, individual contributor, but the success in leadership itself needs to rise above a value system that formed within yourself, something that you cannot borrow with someone else or you tend to be someone else. One of the major values in leadership I have learned is really to put gratitude first. When you take what you receive with gratitude instead of the sense of entitlement or redemption, I think leadership will start to grow inside of you. So if I ought to name one leadership mentor that I would attribute the most, it would be Cash Shake. He was one of the marketing VPs I was fortunate to work for at Ruckus Wireless about 5 to 6 years ago. Cash really ignited my interest in the area of leadership. He always puts that leadership development in his team as a top priority. He's the first corporate leader who gave me a chance to see what leadership looks like through many different lenses. So we had many hours of one-on-one conversations, mentoring sessions, opportunity. He gave it to me to join a manager bootcamp at UC Berkeley and introduce several of the great books that I have a chance to read.
Wonderful. It's amazing how often when I run into great leaders like yourself, they've had the opportunity at some point to be taken under someone special's wing. And I'm not surprised to hear it, and I'm very glad that it happened for you. Kelly, over the years, I have to imagine that you've led some great teams and you've developed some strong teamwork and strong collaboration on those teams. Would you share with our listeners how you developed that strong collaboration and that strong teamwork?
My opinion or response to this question would come down to simply embracing transparency. Embracing transparency is something I find very, very effective in establishing trust and collaboration across teams. This is becoming more true and important, I think, in a more distributed workforce in today's environment. Embracing it by creating open, clear communications among team members, advocating the value of helping each other out, celebrating team success as well as individuals' milestones. In addition, set up some time to have fun with your team because we need to have a very healthy balance for work and personal life.
We certainly spend a lot of our adult lives working, don't we, Kelly? And I love your point that we need to have some fun along the way because work shouldn't just be work, work, work all the time. It's kind of nice to have some fun together with your teammates, isn't it? Kelly, I'm interested in what might be the accomplishment in your life or in your career thus far that has brought you the greatest satisfaction or maybe made you most proud.
There are some of the awards and recognitions that I can easily refer to in answering this question. However, I want to call out the quality of resilience as something I feel most proud of myself. It has basically shaped who I am today.
There's a great message there, listeners. I think you're saying, Kelly, that life brings us challenges and adversity. And if we're resilient in overcoming those painful obstacles, that's what prepares us to handle the next challenge with greater strength and fuels our success. What a wonderful lesson, Kelly. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's always a pleasure for me to speak with a fast ascending leader like you, Kelly. Can you reveal to our tribe of listeners the best single investment you've ever made in yourself?
That's a great question, Michael. When I reflect my journey on the leadership development side, I think just the thoughts and dedication to spend time to observe other effective leaders around myself and just learn from them. I think that single aspect of effort or dedication, or you say personal investment, really made a difference for my particular case. Leadership styles do change and transform as you adapt. So I guarantee to the listeners that if you will find time to pause and think about this, I guarantee you will find a lot of inspirations.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to pause here for just a few seconds for a brief word from our sponsor, and then we'll be right back with Kelly Liu. Hello, this is Michael Beach with Michael Beach Coaching and Consulting. I want to tell you today about lots of free things that we can provide for you at no cost that are going to be incredibly valuable. If you're an aspiring leader or you want to learn more about developing leadership within your organization, you can follow us on LinkedIn. We put blogs out monthly, posts out almost daily. We have a YouTube channel, Michael Beach Coaching and Consulting, that has a series of videos on leadership and accountability and many others. Of course, you can subscribe to this podcast. In addition, you can send us a message at info@michaelbeachcoach.com, and we'll be happy to sign you up for our monthly newsletter, where we always include free tools for everyone who signs up for the newsletter, and we tell you what's going on at our company. Again, this is Michael with michaelbeachcoach.com, and we are looking forward to you signing up and subscribing to our blog, our video, our podcast, or our newsletter. Thanks. We're back. We've been having a very enlightening conversation with Kelly Liu, an outstanding leader and the Senior Director of Global Demand at Menlo Security in Mountain View in the great state of California. Kelly, I forgot to ask you earlier when we were talking about Menlo Security and your important work there in Mountain View, if one of our listeners wants to learn more about Menlo Security, might be interested in employment there, or might be interested in talking to your company about becoming a customer or other business opportunities, how do they contact Menlo Security?
They can come to our website, menlosecurity.com. Find us also on LinkedIn and other social channels, and they are always welcome to reach out to me personally as well.
Fantastic. Well, it was nice to hear about how you moved past the early challenges in your life to receive your MBA and start a successful career in marketing and strategy, Kelly. Can you tell our listeners about what you're doing to raise the level of your leadership game these days?
Fantastic question there, Michael. I think the ability to look at things with a positive attitude is simply powerful. The pandemic has totally disrupted how we work and how we live. As a marketer, we learned throughout the way to express customer empathy in our communications, in the tactical executions we do day to day. As a leader, we're becoming better listeners and someone who can lift each other during this challenging time that's filled with anxiety, emotions, and a sense of disconnect from other people. So I am putting my best effort I can in supporting my team and colleagues just by simply being present during our conversations, being more relatable from their perspectives, and just being trustworthy in the way that people feel protected for their sense of security, for their sense of trust, and other emotional needs. On the business side, I want to be the voice for alignment, be the example of agility to help the company achieve objectives. It's simply that desire of winning that's really driving me every day in being the best leader I can.
Oh, what a terrific answer. Lots and lots of nuggets of gold in there, Kelly. Thank you so much. My next question is this. What is the greatest leadership advice that anyone has ever given you? Do you remember who shared it with you?
There's one piece of great advice that came across to me from multiple respected leaders, which is authenticity. When we face situations that's unprecedented, unexpected, or just simply difficult, I think the best response you can do or give is just be yourself, right? Be the authentic self, even if it means like showing your weakness or make you look vulnerable. You will be amazed to discover how much trust and respect you will earn by just being the authentic self.
Terrific. My next question is a selfish one, admittedly. I always enjoy giving my guests an opportunity to put our audience into school for just a moment. I would love to invite you, Kelly, if you've got a 60-second leadership lesson to share it with our listeners. Would you do that?
It's such an honor to receive that question from you, Michael. I have one piece of advice I would like to share with those who are developing leaders. I would say helping people increase their self-awareness will make a huge impact in their career growth. Looking at things from their lens and then help them relate to things more objectively instead of subjectively. And there are also a few pieces of learning stuff from my own development experience, which I really would hope that I have comprehended them much, much earlier on. Here we go. Take feedback constructively versus personally, because you'll feel being attacked, which is often not the case.
Right.
Try to see things through other people's perspectives before forming your own opinions, and always seek clarifications if there is a question mark in your mind. Another piece of advice is respect and the loyalty are earned not given by title or authority. That is a very different value between Oriental and Western culture that I have learned personally in the multicultural environment. The final piece of learning that I would like to share is trust is mutual versus one directional. You have to trust other people in order to earn their trust back.
Absolutely. What a fantastic lesson. I hope you were paying attention there, listeners, because Kelly is absolutely right. Raising your self-awareness will have a very direct and very strong correlation to your success and your career growth. And along the way, you shared about a half dozen nuggets of gold there, real leadership wisdom. Thank you for those insights, Kelly. Let me ask you this. What's persuaded you over the years to spend so much of your precious time and your energy in an effort to develop other people to become stronger leaders?
So over the years, I started to realize and feel passionately giving and cultivating leaders is becoming a very, very rewarding experience for me personally. So if we can all discover and develop new leaders, our organization can succeed and scale at a much faster pace. And ultimately, yourself will become a greater leader after all. So that's very rewarding. It's worth so much of my effort and time to invest in.
Terrific. You know, your comment a moment ago about increasing self-awareness reminded me that I wanted to ask you about how high a value you place on emotional intelligence when you're recruiting new talent or developing the next generation of great leaders for Menlo Security.
It is very critical. Emotional intelligence can turn an individual into a leader and can turn a leader into a great leader when coupled with some domain expertise. So depending on the roles I am recruiting for, I tend to spend some time during interview really to observe how the candidate relates to me and how the candidate is working on establishing that conversation and establishing that connection with the person they're speaking to or interviewing with. As someone who came from a very different culture background, I often see emotional intelligence a major barrier for people to unlock their potential in leadership. So I'm taking personally a very conscious approach to improve myself in this area over the years, which is simply several steps. Listen, observe, practice, reflect, and improve. It also helps a ton if you have someone that you trust who you can discuss this particular topic.
Fantastic. Love it. My final question for you today, Kelly, is this. You and I were corresponding back and forth about today's episode, and you shared some tremendous insights with me about how things changed overnight about a year ago when COVID-19 began rampaging around the globe. Would you tell us about some of your observations and experiences with this challenging time of change and disruption, please?
My pleasure, Michael. It is such a current and relevant questions we should revisit over and over, even we get out of the current pandemic. So how I like to resonate this is with the audience today is from the aspect of how leadership skills can grow exponentially during time of change and disruptions, such as in the current COVID-19 situation. If we put this into a business context, overnight, all the traditional in-person meetings and trade shows vanished or stopped, which is forcing all the event marketers to transform to digital marketers, the field sales team experts to adopt remote selling, which is something folks have not been doing in the past on the day-to-day cases. So looking at this from a leadership development lens, people who can quickly pivot and create new winning strategies during times of this kind of disruption, that is how new leadership will emerge. So I would leave it with a very encouraging note to anyone who is experiencing the disruption, experiencing a moment of change. Think on your feet and give yourself faith, and you can quickly adapt and, survive and thrive. It may completely elevate you to a whole different level on your leadership skills and the next chapter in your career development.
That's a great thought right there. Thank you, Kelly. I knew our conversation was going to be a good one, and I knew you would have some unique insights for our audience, given your path to success from Asia to America. I really appreciate your wisdom and insights today. Thank you so much for being my guest today and for sharing your story with our audience of executives and emerging leaders. It was absolutely wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me today, Michael.
Well, it was my pleasure. Absolutely. Well, that's our episode for today. What are you doing, listeners? We want to thank our special guest, Kelly Liu, from Mountain View, California, and Menlo Security. Our next episode will be released next week, and we're going to be talking with another tremendous leader who's busy investing in developing their leadership acumen and simultaneously investing in developing the next generation of great leaders for their organization. Thank you, listeners, for joining us, and please reach out to us at info@michaelbeachcoach.com to give us your feedback about today's episode with Menlo Security's Kelly Liu, or to share your suggestions with us for a future guest. Or perhaps you'd like to help us to make our podcast even more valuable to you as you invest in leadership development. Don't miss the opportunity to subscribe to this podcast or to our newsletter or our YouTube channel. They're all free and they're all wonderful. We'll look forward to spending our next episode together with you. Until then, remember, as Kelly Liu taught us today, life is going to hand you some lemons every once in a while. And what you do with them is completely up to you. I think Kelly would recommend that you use them to make some delicious lemonade. Thanks again, Kelly. And listeners, we'll see you next time on What Are You Doing? See you then.